All right, good morning. Thanks for joining us for this go-to meeting regarding lodging in Mariposa County. Today we'll cover three different issues for you. The first will be Dr. Surjanko will talk about the tiering strategy and updated health officer orders. Kim Keith with Mariposa County will talk about the changes to what the tiering strategies mean. And then I'll finish up with some information regarding COVID expenses and revenue losses during this event. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Eric.
Hi, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us on relatively short notice. And echoing off what Joe said is, as of Tuesday, we moved into the yellow tier, which is the least restrictive tier in the California's blueprint for a safer economy. And just take a step back on that for a moment, is that on the 28th of August, the state health officer established a new mechanism that replaced the previous county data monitoring list with a 4-tier blueprint for a safer economy, wherein there were 4 tiers going from the most restrictive being purple through red and orange to the least restrictive being yellow. And that was based upon the 7-day average case count, as well as the percentage tests that were positive. And that was based over a 2-week trend. So over the last 3 weeks, we've had a decreasing number of cases, actually 0 in the last 2 weeks, and then 1 each in the previous 2 weeks before that. So that allowed us to move from the orange tier into the yellow tier. And so Kim will go into specifics on what that means for the lodging industry. But for those of you who remember, also on the 28th of August, I wrote a health officer's order modifying the existing lodging guidance. And today I went ahead, and it's been a work in progress, honestly, for the last 2 weeks. It's just been interrupted by things like the Creek Fire and other sort of pressing emergencies. So I apologize for the delay in that, but it's been released today. And realistically, what it says in the yellow tier as far as guidance is that, and I think, yeah, we got it up here, is that in the yellow, there is no restriction. There's no 24-hour hold or 70% held. It's all we ask is that there be a 3-hour rest period between the time that the guests vacate and when housekeeping begins. And that is simply to mitigate the risk of aerosolization. Some of you may have seen the CDC website or webpage that was posted and then withdrawn because it's still a work in progress, is that we are concerned about what's called aerosolization, where very small micronuclei get generated into the air and hang. And they typically drop within 3 hours. And so the reason for that 3-hour wait period is to allow the micronuclei to drop and reduce the risk of infection of people who are doing housekeeping. And then what we do ask is that when the cleaning staff do enter into the room, is that they're wearing appropriate PPE, which includes a surgical mask, eye protection, and gloves. And the eye protection is actually a thing layered on top of the respiratory protection and the gloves, because again, we do recognize that both droplets and micronuclei, so things that are both airborne and droplet, can get into the mucosal surface of the eye and cause infection that way. So this is covering the 3 most likely ways of getting infected, and so it protects your staff against an infection. We do actually continue to have cases of people visiting us from other counties who, so it doesn't appear on our case count, but they stay in our lodging, and I will say disproportionately impact the vacation rentals more so than the commercial lodging. So I wanted to make people aware that those are still happening, where about once a month we'll have guests that report getting infected after they've left the VRBO or other vacation rental. And so I think these are appropriate measures, because we're certainly not going to hear from everybody who gets infected after visiting us. And from a disease prevalence standpoint, the only other county in the state of California that has a lower prevalence of COVID than we do is Alpine County. So any visitor to a lodging in Mariposa is likely to be coming from an area that has more disease transmission than we do. So these are prudent measures to reduce that. I will say also in the health officer's order is that this is the guidance for us while we're in the yellow tier. For the orange tier, the next most restrictive tier, it's essentially the same, although we make a recommendation that if possible that there be a 24-hour hold, but there's no mandatory 24-hour hold. And then once we get into red and purple, that's where we start layering on those holds. But I am hopeful that we don't get into the position that we're either in red or purple, and that we're able to stay in yellow and orange, where I think the restrictions are appropriate for the level of transmission that we currently have in the county. So I'm going to hand it over to Kim, and we'll save questions for the end unless there's questions that people have right now.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to quickly go over some of the major changes from the orange tier to the yellow tier for the hotel and short-term lodging sector. 1 second, I'm going to share my screen with you.
And Kim, you've already got your my slide up there, so I don't know if you just need to advance it one. There you go. Yep.
Okay, thank you. So with the major changes are that your fitness centers, if you have one, can open with a 50% capacity, and the spa facilities, so your spas, saunas, and steam rooms can all open with a 50% capacity. There still needs to be mitigation efforts for all indoor operations and all for the aquatic fitness centers. For the spas, you need to limit the number of the people in the hot tub sauna area to 50% of whatever that capacity is. People in one single spa or hot tub should be limited to the same cohort group or the same household bubble. Also, you need to maintain the proper disinfectant levels for your spas, your saunas, the restroom facilities, all of the places within that area. Other than that, the other operational mitigation strategies are still in place for the yellow tier. So all the things that you've all been doing already in terms of cleaning and sanitation and everything else that went into the orange tier is currently the same. Now I'll pass it over to Joe so he can give you some more information about this.
Great, good. Thanks more. Good morning. Thanks and good morning. Wow, that was a tough one. So what I wanted to talk to you today about, thanks, Dr. Eric, for the update on the tiering and changes. Kim, thank you for that. Is on October 6th, I have actually talked to some of you about this. We will be going to the Board of Supervisors to ask that some of the CARES funding that the county has received be routed towards businesses. So what that looks like is we've already assembled $200,000 from a California Department of Public Health grant for expenses associated with COVID. That would be things like having to get cleaning supplies or PPE, things of that nature. And then we're working through the CARES funding. I think we're going to try and get $400,000 that will be associated with losses due to COVID. So one side is $200,000 is the expenses, the other side is $400,000 for the losses. We have been working through some other counties, so Tuolumne's done this, a couple other counties have done it, to get an application form and a process put together so that it's unbiased and as fair as possible to make sure that all of the businesses that apply for either the expense side or the loss side or both are able to recover some funding for your businesses. So on October 6th, the County Administrative Officer, Dallin Kimball, will present to the board this process and ask the board to allow us to go ahead with this. If done so, we plan to have the whole process put together. You'll see information shortly after that. What I do want to make known is this is regarding the $400,000 on the care side. We already have put together $200,000 on the expense side. So that's not something that we are seeking to divert funds. We have the funds for it, but we want to do one process. So as a business owner, you would be able to go into the application, put in your business information, and then clarify what expenses did you have or what continuing expenses do you have. And then on the other side, what losses have you incurred? We're currently working through whether or not it will be a set amount or a floating amount. We're still working through that at this time. You'll get more information on October 6th about that. I'm really excited because in addition to that, Tara Schiff, who generally is on air, there she is, also has asked for a grant and received a grant for $75,000 additional dollars. And I'll actually turn over to Tara if you want to talk about that.
Sure. Thank you, Joe. Yes, we received the SAFE grant, which is a Safety and Freedom Enhancement Grant through CDBG of $78,000, and we'll be able to disperse reimbursements to local businesses. Now, the difference between our grant is that it starts on September 10th when the grant was approved, and invoices will have to be incurred from September 10th onward, whereas the funds that Joe's mentioning are retroactive. So we think that's a great match, that together we can really help our businesses from March through September and onward, from September ongoing. So we'll continue to have funds through the SAFE grant. I put together a flyer. I'll get that to our JIP today, and we'll get that information out, and we'll have the application online probably early next week. I also wanted to add, Joe, about the lab. We're doing a local assistance center on Tuesday and Wednesday of October 6th and 7th, and that center will be in the Mariposa room at the Health and Human Services Center, at the Health and Human Services building. So it's going to be 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We want to give enough time for you guys to be able to be in your businesses and not miss out on work, which we know is vital, but be able to come and get some great resources. I have Mother-in-law job training there. SBDC, Small Business Development Center, will be there. We're working on SBA, EDD. I'll have lots and lots of information from local banks and other resources. I'll also have the applications for the SAFE program that I'm hoping to let you apply for live online at the local assistance center. And we'll have more information on the programs that Joe just mentioned. So looking forward to seeing all of you at the Health and Human Services Center on October 6th and 7th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Thank you, Tara. And I promise we will get to questions here in a second if you have any. I did want to note that part of the CARES funding, in all of the different CARES funding that we've received, and we've received different for testing and for loss of revenue and things of that nature, it comes with the requirement that we continue to maintain the standards that come with health officer orders or state orders. So as an example, if you said that you spent $3,000 on supplies and you lost $9,000 as an example, you would have a $12,000 grant award, which would be given in 3 monthly payments. So once in October, once in November, and once in December. As long as you continue to maintain your business to the health officer order, you would get each of those subsequent funds. The reason why I talk about October, November, and December is because the CARES funding that we received must be spent by December 31st. So if you're thinking that this application is going to be a 6-month process, it's not. October will start the first payment, November will be the next payment, and December will be the last. It'll be split into 3. And as long as you're maintaining your business and attesting to the fact that you're following the state guidelines for our tier, whether we're in yellow, orange, whatever, you'll continue to get those payments in all 3. With that, I know it can be confusing. You will get a lot more information after October 6th. With that, I would like to open it up for any questions that you might have of any of us, Dr. Eric, Kim, or myself, or you can type it in the chat box if you're not comfortable talking on the screen, and we'll answer those as well. All right, Kim, did you already put up the screen with our email addresses and such? If you want to put that up real quick.
Okay.
So if you sit and digest this information and determine later on that you have questions, I'm going to go ahead and put some contact info, or Kim's going to put some contact info up. Feel free to send any questions to any of these. Well, the first two are the blueprint tier guidance from the state that will always tell you where we're at. Then our website, Mariposa County website, has the recording of all of these that we've done. There's my email address, and then the COVID information line and email as well. You can go to either of those last two, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I will tell you that we've had a couple, or Tara, she's putting hers up in the chat box. You know, slight creek fire got in the way of a lot of our stuff, so it kept us very busy. So it may not be a 1 hour return on an email, but I promise we'll get back to you. So, and there's Tara's phone number as well. So it's tschiff@mariposacounty.org or 209-742-1214 for her phone number. All right, with that, any last words, Dr. Eric, before we log off?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize all the lodging owners that, we talk about HHSA's involvement in the response to the Creek Fire, even though it was in Madera County, or still is in Madera County, and may actually increase over this weekend. But I appreciate all of the lodging owners stepping forward and taking care of evacuees from Madera, from North Fork, et cetera. And then the other thing I'll throw out there is, as we open up more sectors of the economy and see more people from other places, is I always encourage people to get tested. And we will continue to have the free testing available at the OptumServe site that is at the Senior Center, and will be at the Senior Center through at least the end of November. So for people who are in the hospitality sector and encountering visitors from outside the area, we recommend testing every 2 to 4 weeks. And the other thing I'll throw out there is that as we do open things up more at the sector level, is that individual responsibility really increases to do all those basic things that we keep talking about, like hand washing and wearing a face covering and staying home if you're sick and staying away from people who are sick. So it really does, even in the yellow tier, COVID's still out there. It may not be as prevalent in Mariposa as other places, but it's still out there and still presents both an opportunity and a risk. So do those risk mitigations that will reduce transmission should it occur in Mariposa. And I thank you all for joining us on short notice. And if there's not any other questions, we can drop off. All right. Thank you so much, and take care and stay safe out there.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.